high in the Karakoram, where glaciers met the sky, an expedition fought exhaustion, cold, and the edge of the unknown to chart a world no human had ever mapped.
Hey, glad you're here. Welcome to the Himalayan Journals. Here on this channel, we bring to you real stories from century old field notes. We try to keep it simple and calm here. Think of it as a documented history of the Himalayas from the early 1900s, covering stories of indigenous wisdom, epic expeditions, and groundbreaking science passed on just as they were recorded. Subscribe, zone out, binge.
In 1939, another chapter opened in the long story of the Karakoram. The Great Shaxgam map from 1937 had cleared much of the mystery, yet there remained an empty space on the map, an unsurveyed wedge between the Shaxgam and Braldu rivers, and a confusion that lingered among the glaciers of Hispar and Biafo. For decades, explorers had puzzled over these ice fields. Some, like the Bullock workmen's in 1905, had spoken of a glacier without an outlet. Others, like Conway in 1892, believed the Snow Lake was the very fountainhead of all the region's ice. It was not until Tilman crossed the Snow Lake in 1937, discovering a pass that led to the head of the Cornice Glacier, that these puzzles began to dissolve into certainty. But one great blank still remained. In 1939, Eric Shipton set out to finish the work, to map with accuracy the last uncharted 2,000 square miles of the Snow Lake country and the glacier systems that surrounded it. His plan was simple but bold: to carry the survey from Hispar to the Chogolungma, linking the great glaciers into a connected whole. The expedition gathered at Srinagar in late May. There were 4 main members: Shipton as leader, Dr. R. Scott Russell, the plant physiologist, Dr. E.C. Fontaine as medical officer, and Peter Mott, the surveyor and writer of this account. 2 Indian surveyors, Fazal Elahi and Inayat Khan, joined from the Survey of India, along with 9 Sherpas led by the strong and cheerful Angthar Kai. Their journey to Gilgit began across the cool terraces of Kashmir, through pine woods and snow passes, until the lush valleys gave way to the dry barrens of Astor and Bunji. At Gilgit, the expedition rested before pressing into the vastness of Hunza and Nagar, the true gateway to the Hispar Glacier. Above them towered Rakaposhi, 25,000 feet of ice and rock rising like a frozen wall from the valley floor. At Nagar, work began in earnest. Mott climbed the peak of Zangia Harar to establish survey points, but altitude sickness struck him down for 2 days. Once recovered, the team debated their route. Shipton had planned to move directly to the Hispar Pass and begin the triangulation from Snow Lake. Yet, at the suggestion of the Survey of India, they altered their plan, deciding to extend the triangulation up the Hispar Glacier instead. It proved a costly mistake. For 5 days, they labored on fruitless climbs, searching for survey points described as pamphlets that proved wrong or misplaced. Mott, Shipton, and Fontaine endured exhausting ascents, lack of water, and intense heat. One night, they went without water entirely, forced to suck raw eggs to ease their thirst. Their effort led to little, and by the time they returned to Nagar, the season had advanced, and the chance to return to the original plan was gone. Still, work continued. They measured baselines, climbed summits, and waded through hours of shifting mist to catch fleeting glimpses of peaks. In the midst of this, Russell and Betterton set out with a small party to cross the Nushik into Baltistan. The climb was treacherous, the ice steep and crevassed. Betterton fell into a crevasse and was saved only by the rope that held him. Yet they succeeded, camping one night at the top before descending to Arandu, the first Europeans to cross the pass since 1892. Meanwhile, Mott and his Sherpas worked from Hispar village, climbing ridges on both sides of the gorge to fix triangulation points. The climbs were brutal. Often there was no water for hours, and every ridge required a gain of 8,000 feet. Once, while separated from his companions, Mott found himself trapped above the river, with night falling, alone, cold, and without food. Only by clawing his way up the silt ridge through darkness did he find his men again. By late July, the team reunited at McCorm, halfway up the Hispar Glacier. There, among flowered slopes, Russell collected plants while the others mapped and explored. Fontaine and Secord attempted a pass toward Shimshal, but turned back under the threat of avalanches. Soon after, Mott suffered an accident when a massive boulder on a survey station gave way beneath him. He was thrown down the slope and narrowly escaped injury, though his theodolite was destroyed. The loss crippled the precision of their work, yet the survey went on with smaller instruments. In August, the expedition pressed toward the Hispar Pass, now burdened with loads but reduced to a handful of loyal Sherpas. The Nagar porters had refused to go farther. On the 13th, they reached the pass at 17,000 feet, and before them opened the sight of Snow Lake, Conway's most beautiful place on earth. 1,000 feet below, the vast amphitheater of ice stretched in every direction. Beyond rose Banthabrak, the Ogre Peak, crowned with snow and light. From this camp, the party divided. Shipton and Fountain descended the Biafo Glacier toward Ascole, exploring and mapping the Panma, Nobande Sobande, and Choctaw valleys. There, among towering granite spires and the wild peaks of Latok, they found and crossed new passes, including the New Mustag Pass, linking Ascole to the Shaxgam. Mott and Russell meanwhile turned westward, surveying the Soka and Solu glaciers beyond Tilman's Pass. There, amid wild pinnacles and unexpected grasslands, they mapped the region Tilman had only glimpsed 2 years earlier. By September, the summer was closing. Mott fell ill with a spreading infection and struggled to finish his survey near the Sosbon Glacier. Snow fell early, turning the landscape white. At last, news reached them of war in Europe. A telegram from Secord brought the words, German-Polish war outbreak. Russo-German treaty, the mountain silence had been broken by history itself. The expedition slowly turned homeward. Fountain crossed to Gilgit through Haramosh, and by October, all were reunited. The winter plans were abandoned. In their 6 months, they had mapped 1,600 square miles of some of the most difficult terrain on Earth. They had cleared up the mysteries of Snow Lake, found new passes, and brought back 1,000 specimens of plant life. As they left the Karakoram, war waited beyond the passes, but the mountains, serene and indifferent, remained as they had always been, vast, remote, and eternal.